Hey guys, y'all know what time it is? It's time for This Week in WordPress! I am here, I am BJ Keaton, and I have the best news, tutorials, and resources that we've been able to put together this week in WordPress. So join me, think about things that you've done this week, and share them in the comments, and we will absolutely talk about it and make your Friday afternoon go by just a little bit faster. All right, folks. So hopefully you guys missed me a whole lot last week. I was a little bit sick and under the weather, so I had to take the stream off. But I am back. I'm here, and we are raring and ready to go. I just wanted to say thank you for joining in. For those of you who have never joined in before, what this is a show where we just talk. We talk about stuff that's going on in your life, stuff that's going on in the WordPress sphere, and we go on and we just kind of have a discussion about it. So if you have anything that you've been doing this week that you want to share in the comments, please go. If you need any kind of help or anything, the community has been fantastic to answer any questions as we go through today, so feel free to do that. And I will do my very best to record what's going on, I saw comments there, to pay attention to what's going on in the comments here so that I can respond to anything that you have because this is a live show. So like I said, and I'll also do my best to pay attention and let you guys know because we do broadcast to Facebook and to YouTube at the same time which place the comments are coming from. So just wanted to make sure, and thank you, Uncle Social, for grabbing Moheen. Yes, it is live. I'll wave. I can't see you guys, but I'll wave. So this week, because I missed last week, I absolutely have to start out. I have to start out with WordPress turning 15. Last Thursday, actually, I think last week was the 15-year anniversary of WordPress getting its start. WP Tavern posted an article about it. While it wasn't the very first release of the software, they had posted a picture of the comment where Matt and Mike got together and made WordPress. That there was a screenshot of the comment where they were talking about what needs to happen with blogging software, the issues with it at the time in 2003, and it was really neat to go back and see that. The post is linked. It is the very top thing in the news section in the description of this video. It might be over there if you're on Facebook, but you can check that out. It is really cool to look at because it was something I actually didn't know that was how WordPress got its start, with forking off of B2, and it was just really cool. So go check that out. It's the first link in the news section. That said, those of you who have not been here before, or those of you who may have forgotten, I have all of the links to everything that we talk about today in the description of this video. So you can follow along, you can click on anything, read, and show love to the people who have put out this content, because we're just here discussing it. So they need the love for actually doing the hard work so that we can have fun with it and learn. And this show will be recorded and put on YouTube and Facebook both for you to watch if you want to go back and listen or look at anything. So I wanted to then push forward and let you know that the newest version of WordPress 4.9.3 is scheduled to come out here in about 3 days. It's scheduled for February 5th. So keep that in mind, depending on your update schedule. Some people have different things they have to pay attention to in terms of the security updates, and this one is... Oh, excuse me, I about choked on myself here. The 4.9.3, excuse me, is removing the JS hint from code editors because there is a GPL licensing issue with it that you can incur to constantly we run in open source land here, and we have to make sure that everything is GPL compliant, because everything that's written and published for WordPress is open source by nature. So they're pushing that out to remove a dependency out of the code editors that was put in 4.9. So there's that. Just be aware that it's coming in about 3 days, depending on how your update cycle works. I also wanted to point out to anybody who was using WooCommerce, which is like, what, 80% of you guys out there. 3.3 has been removed from the plugin directory because there are theme conflicts that are going on. This one's outlined, like I said, in the description of the video here, and it's supposed to have theme compatibility fixes for it, but a lot of third-party themes had category issues, and the absolute last thing that you guys who are running any kind of e-commerce site is having category issues with your products. So they're taking it down. They replaced it with the previous version of 3.2.6 and want to make sure that everything is up and going. If you've updated it already, don't worry that you have to change anything. If you're good, you're good. I mean, that's something that you should not worry about. Don't go freaking out right now saying, oh my goodness, the world is breaking, we're not going to be able to make any money, if you've updated. This is a good opportunity for me to give a shout out to one of my favorite plugins that's kind of saved my life over the last few months as I've been playing with different plugins, doing different work and research. They mention it in this WP Tavern article. It's called WP Rollback. It is fantastic. It lets you go back to any version of a plugin or a version of WordPress. That means that if you've updated to 4.9.2 and it doesn't work for you, you can go back to 4.8 or 4.9.1, whatever it is, because all of the WordPress versions are archived on the repo, and you can go download any of them as you want, and this plugin just lets you set it up, click a couple of buttons, and then reinstall that version of WordPress or a plugin. They're awesome, you guys, so make sure that you do that. And in YouTube, I had a question from Radapalua. I cannot pronounce that. You guys know I can't pronounce anything that is on the internet. And it is absolutely free. It's great. So I've used it. I never had to pay a thing. It just works, right? So please go get it. And Uncle Social mentioned in the YouTube comments there as well that I've mentioned it before and checked it out, and made him realize how much I love it. Like, I'm telling you, when something works, it works, and I want everybody to know about it. So make sure that you check out that plugin. It's good stuff, and that you make sure that you check your theme compatibility before you update to WooCommerce 3.3. So excuse me, it's allergy time here, even though it's January here in Alabama. So there was also a WP Weekly podcast that comes out that comes out from WP Tavern, and this one has Zach Gordon. You guys may have remembered a couple of weeks ago I mentioned that he had a Gutenberg developers course put out for everybody who needs to prep their themes and plugins for the Gutenberg rollout in potentially April. Well, they have an interview with him, and that's great. Listen to it. Good stuff. I've learned from Zach at Treehouse, all sorts of good stuff. Good guy, nice guy. I really like his stuff. Learned a bunch. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because of a link in the comments of this one. In the WP Tavern article, there is a link to a GitHub issue that is talking about them deprecating the name Gutenberg. I wanted to let you guys know about this because this is something that matters in terms of branding, and I thought that this would be something that you marketing people out there might want to take a look at and chime in on. I actually commented on my first GitHub issue thread on this one just a little while ago, and they're talking about the differences in something called calling it the WordPress editor versus is calling it the Gutenberg editor or the block editor, because we're not going to have just one editor anymore in WordPress. We're going to have Gutenberg, as it stands now, the blocks that we're moving around, and we're also going to have the tiny MCE, which is what we're currently using. It is technically a third-party software that's open source itself. So they're talking about how this is the first time that WordPress is going to have a fully first-party editor, but we're also going to have access to the editor we have right now in terms of it being a plugin. And people are talking about marketing, people are talking about branding, and future generations of WordPress users getting confused if things are constantly referring to Gutenberg. And this is a really, honestly important discussion that's going on in GitHub issues right now in comments there about what we're going to call this. There's a lot of good points on both sides, and personally, I fall on the side of we need to keep it called Gutenberg. There's a lot. I'm big on branding. I'm big on building up something that works for you, and that's something that the Gutenberg people have done so far. They've built it around the name Gutenberg as it being this revolution, and I'm hoping that that they end up keeping it, because honestly, the idea of just calling it WP Blocks or WordPress Block Editor or something like that, while that's fine, it's not interesting, and there's nothing that separates it out there from the millions of other plugins that you could call blocks or WP blocks or blocks WP. I mean, it's generic to me. And the one thing that I feel that WordPress has going for it is that it doesn't have to be generic, that we have something special here. And that when we have, I think they commented in the GitHub thread that there were 7.2 million responses on Google, I think, for WordPress and Gutenberg together, that it's ridiculous in my mind to call it anything but. There are arguments back and forth saying that it's I read a comment, I'm sorry, where they were saying that Gutenberg doesn't mean anything, but I think it has the connotation of publishing already. People were saying that you can add things to it, like the Gutenberg block editor or the Gutenberg WordPress editor, things like that. So this is a good conversation to get in. If you have a GitHub account, you can comment. You can sign up for a GitHub account to comment. So go over there and check it out and read. It's a long thread and it's an interesting thread. So make sure that you head over there and do that. On YouTube, Uncle Social says he thinks that it should just be the WordPress editor. Having its own name makes it sound separate from WordPress. The WP Media Library doesn't have its own name, and I do absolutely 100% see where you're coming from. I don't think that the way that my comment read, what I said about it, Uncle, was that we're going to call it the editor anyway. That we don't call the current editor tiny MCE. I mean, very few of us are going to say that we are writing in the tiny MCE WYSIWYG editor. I mean, that's just not it. We're going to say that we're just working in the editor. I believe that I say whenever I'm talking about the text editor, I say the text editor in the Divi module, the Divi text module or something like that. I mean, because that's where I work with the tiny MCE. I think everybody's just going to call it the editor, and people are going to have the legacy editor. I don't think the Gutenberg one is the real issue here. I don't think Gutenberg is the one where we have to really worry about the branding so much. It's when people have to find the old editor. It's when those of us who are going to continue to use it have to go into the plugin repository and download the extra plugin to put in what we currently have. That, I think, is when we're going to need to worry about branding and marketing more than that. Project Social here said that to Gutenberg was a project name like Xbox Scorpio or Windows pre-releases. I actually thought of the Nintendo Dolphin and the Ultra 64 before those releases, with like GameCube and the NX being the Nintendo NX for the Switch, things like that. So that's what I thought of as well, Uncle Social. SM Matrix, hi to India there. I was curious. He says, what's the advice for a Divi beginner? Can you be a little more clear? I'm sure some of us have a lot of advice to give. Just that's a big subject, so let's see if we can get as specific as we can to be able to help you out. So I think that my stream might have died on Facebook somehow. I'm looking right now and I don't know what happened. YouTube seems to be going okay. I do not know what happened on Facebook. Facebook does not like us when we stream. We've had more trouble out of Facebook than we have YouTube for sure. So cannot figure that out. I cannot end and go live again. So I will continue onward this way. For those of you who are just joining us, I wanted to welcome you to the This Week in WordPress stream, where we go over news, resources, and tutorials that were published this week in WordPress to be able to make your Friday afternoon and hopefully your life just a little bit easier, better, and more insightful and more fun. So we're working through the very end of the news section right now. You can catch all of the links in the descriptions of this videos of this video. It's these videos because I think about Facebook and YouTube, and you'll be able to click on any of them and give the content creators some love. And there's one more comment in YouTube I wanted to reply to. Uncle Social called me Mr. Keaton, and don't do that. Call me BJ. I used to even have my students call me BJ when I was their instructor and everything. So I was like, no, I've never gone by Mr. Keaton. It's Beej, BJ, whatever you want to call me. It's weird being called Mr. Keaton. It was weird when my students did it too. I was like, stop it. Moving on, I did want to let you guys know the last bit of news that I saw was that Liquid Web, a big company, has acquired iThemes. Let me start over. My mouth does not seem to want to work right. Liquid Web is a WordPress hosting solution. They have managed WooCommerce. They do all sorts of good stuff there. They have bought iThemes, which is a company who does themes. They do tutorials. And one of the big things that they have is a security plugin. One of the big security plugins, really one of the big three in my mind with WordPress, of course, WordPress, WordFence security, and then I think of iThemes as well. So I think it's interesting that Liquid Web just straight up bought iThemes. And what is the most interesting thing about this is mergers happen all the time. I mean, that goes on. There's a link from post status at the bottom of the news in this, but what's interesting is that it was a cash deal. Like they say that the opening of the article says Liquid Web has acquired iThemes in an all-cash deal that includes the entire iThemes team moving over to Liquid Web as an independent unit. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I think that's great. That's great for both companies to merge. Both companies are good. I like both companies. I know folks at both companies, so I think that's wonderful. I wish nothing but the best for them. And if you haven't checked out their stuff, like I said, good people, good stuff. Dave in the YouTube comments brings up that Backup Buddy is also good. I've not used Backup Buddy, but you are not the first person to tell me that, Dave. I really should go look into it then. It keeps coming up. That's just been one that has slipped past me more than anything else. So I will go check that out and be able to report back, because I always like trying new stuff and playing with it, especially as I'm putting up dev sites and things like that. I'm like, oh, I wonder how this plugin works with it instead of the one I always do. This is me typing, by the way. This is how I do WordPress. So that was all the news that I had this week. I mean, that's actually quite a bit, though. It's only a few articles. I mean, I think I've got 5 articles listed on here, but there's some good stuff that went on this week. I mean, it's been a week in WordPress, you know? So, oh, excuse me. My mouth gets so dry when I talk. So moving into the tutorials, I wanted to bring up Smashing Magazine's really cool article, How to Make a Dynamic Website Become Static Through a Content CDN. I don't know exactly how to have a discussion on this, but generally you're going to want to have a CDN to make everything faster. The Google algorithms want everything to be just within a second, really. A second and a half is kind of what we aim for. 1.2, 1.3 ish milliseconds, 1.3 seconds rather. 1.3 milliseconds. You're doing good. And we want to use CDNs and things like that to increase it. We use a CDN at Elegant Themes. Almost every major site has to use a CDN, a content delivery network, so that it makes things easier on your servers and gets the elements to your users quicker. And Smashing Magazine, has a really long article explaining how CDNs work, what good they can do for you, and how to take a dynamic website that's always changing and change it into a static site that will load quickly. Good stuff. Everybody needs to be reading Smashing Magazine. They're great. They always do good stuff. It's fantastic. They always have fantastic articles. I always have stuff from them here. WP Lift has an article right under that in the list that I wanted to talk about the WordPress customizer. Okay, so I get comments about this all the time. Being with Elegant Things, being with Divi, we're working on this. It's something that we're working with constantly. If you're in theme development, you're working with it constantly. If you're in design, you're working with the WordPress customizer constantly, especially since 4.8, I think it was 4.8, was when they really started pushing themes to have no longer separate theme options, but we're moving stuff more into what's just where you go into appearance and customize, or under in Divi when you got your admin bar up top, you go down to customize theme. That's what you're going to be doing a lot with. You set your defaults there. You can mess with the footer and the header. You do a whole lot of stuff there that is site-wide customization, where you don't have to add an extra CSS or go into an individual Divi module settings to do that. I mean, there's a lot of Divi settings in there as well. We use it because that's what WordPress is moving toward getting you to do. So I want you to read this article from WP Lift, because this is the beginner's guide to using the customizer. And if you're like me and a little bit reticent on getting out there using it, I tend to use other stuff more than the customizer, like CSS. Go in there and check it out. The things that the customizer lets you do, honestly, are a little bit easier than writing out lines of CSS. It was actually a really hard changeover for me to get into the customizer, because I'm just like, I'll just write what I want my paragraphs to be in CSS. It'll take me 10 seconds instead of having to go through, but it is good. It has its uses, and honestly, for what it is, it's only going to get better because they're pushing it as the official way to make these changes. So there are a lot more. There's a lot more coming. That way. It has to be, because it's the official way, and a lot more themes are starting to use it because it's really being pushed by the core team. In the YouTube comments, Uncle Social says the overlap between the theme customizer and some Divi visual builder options and theme options can trip him up sometimes. It's not just you, Uncle Social. That actually happens to me too. And I think what it comes down to is not being used to the customizer. I really do. And I'm saying that from my perspective. I'm not sure about you, and I'm not sure about others who have this issue. It's something that I'm so used to editing everything individually. I go in and I mess with a module and it changes, and then I go and I play with the customizer after that because I need to make site-wide changes, but the ones I made in the module didn't change. So I'm like, what's going on? Why is everything wrong? And I'm like, oh, it's because I'm changing the defaults, not the one in the module itself, where I'm basically overriding them. And so it's applying the CSS to the module first, and I think it's a Divi flow thing. I think it's how you and I are interacting with it, but I do understand that's something that's going on, and we're working as always on making everything better for you guys, for us too, and I wanted to put that out there, that it's not just you. Everything, we're moving into the customizer too. I know we've talked a lot about that internally. So we are aware that the customizer is there and that we have work to do there, but like I said, we want it to make it as easy as you guys as we can. So that's there. Divine Kiwi 2012 in the YouTube comment says, "What a job editing the footer for the first time. It made you sweat." Me too. Do you know how long it took me to figure out a way to edit the footer? Like, for real, I had no idea how to do it. I kept looking in the Divi Visual Builder for it, and I'm just like, okay, I got to go edit my footer. This is when I first started out with Divi, and I'm like, okay, so I'm doing this. This, like I said, this is me WordPressing. I've got to do my footer, and I'm like, there's no footer. What do I do? And I had no idea. I wasn't messing with the customizer at the time. It had just been changed over into like this new customizer that they were doing, that they're pushing now. And editing that footer for the very first time absolutely blew my mind. Like, I was crazy. I understand making you sweat. It's like, why is this footer not a footer? When is the footer not a footer? It's when it uses the WordPress theme customizer. I'm here all week. And I've got a question in YouTube. Can you ask a question about the Monarch plugin? Sure, go ahead. Ask me. If I don't know the answer, I'm assuming somebody in the audience does. So please do. But make sure you guys read about the customizer. You're only going to be using it. That said, I do have another piece of news. My mind blanked, and I didn't put this in the links. Oh my goodness. I want each and every one of you to make sure that you update Divi. You need to update Divi, and you need to update Extra. You need to update the Divi Builder, whatever you use with your clients or your own personal sites. We put in literally my favorite update that we have ever made to Divi this week. We now have the layout options. All of the layouts that you can download every Monday are now included in the Visual Builder. The layouts are included in the Divi library. So when you go in to add a layout, you see all of our visual layouts that we've had. That you have not library website, you have the farmers market website, you have the consultant website, the SEO website, the everything that we've been putting out, all of Kenny's team's wonderful work. It's searchable, and you don't have to have any kind of downloads. You click a button, it downloads it, and it applies it to that page. It's beautiful, you guys. This is something that I have needed. I've wanted this for so long, and when they told me that they were working on it, like, I got giddy. Like, you can tell how excited I am about this. And it's got all of the new themes that we put out, the new layouts that we're putting out, these child themes that you can use. They're included every week. It's updated automatically every week. You don't have to do anything to get the new ones. You don't have to go download them. We're still going to be doing use cases for them on live streams and all that, but you're going to get all of the new layouts that we put out for free directly in your builder every week when they're released. So every one of you guys needs to go right now and update Divi. So that's something that we think is super exciting. Tobias has a really interesting point, and I would love to see some more conversation about this in the comments. This is on YouTube. That you hate the included layouts. Wow, my voice cracked. You hate the included layouts, that you don't want your clients to see all of the pre-made layouts. That's a really interesting point, Tobias. I hadn't even thought about that with your clients seeing the layouts and things like that. Now, I've never messed with permissions before. Is there a way, like, this is not something that I've had to do, so I'm not sure if there's a way to do it, to limit permissions from what your clients have so that they can't update or import anything if they're going to be users or writers or editors or anything like that, however you have your user roles set up. Is there any way to limit that? Because I'm not sure. I really don't know. Because that's a really interesting idea, not to see all the pre-made layouts, because I do see how that could be a negative. But I'm actually working on something. Right now, an article that is but where that's something that people have a concern with, people seeing all of this new drag and drop stuff, these new layouts, and it's really interesting because I think it's only going to make our jobs better. Because maybe it's because I'm a teacher, maybe it's because I'm wanting to get out there, that I think it's going to be fantastic for us to be able to help them with stuff like this. That they're going to see this, and we're going to be able to expand on our value. I think it's a really cool thing, but I'd hide them too if I could. Interesting. Tobias says the Elegant Marketplace has a free plugin you can disable the pre-made layouts. Awesome. Go ahead. That's awesome. That's great. I love the Divi community for doing stuff like that. It is, and that is 100% needed in situations like yours. There's a third-party plugin, Uncle Social says, specifically for hiding Divi tools from other users. That's awesome. Isom, sorry, never can get it right. Answered the question earlier today, but I'm not sure how he said to limit it. If Mac answered that, that will be on the YouTube channel and the Facebook channel and the videos. Go check that out. Mac knows everything. Mac and Jason and Doneta, they're the Divi people. I'm the WordPress guy. But really, if he answered it, I didn't see that today. But that's something that you could that you should definitely check out, because that's something, like you said, that's necessary. Let's see. Divi layouts new to Divi is absolutely amazing, but it would just make me want more. A library of pre-made modules from the Divi 100. I'm greedy. I mentioned the Divi 100 after that. I don't know where that is. We talked about it. They will hopefully be added in. I'm not sure if we have all of them like consolidated together in the way that they're putting in with the library right now. That will take the work of putting everything together. So we'll see. I hope so, because I like those Divi 100s. Honestly, the new website that I set up just the other day, honestly, for myself, uses one of the Divi 100 tutorials to set up the header and hero images and everything down there. So I love the Divi 100 stuff myself. See, this is the question about Monarch. I'm sorry, guys. Monarch in the media option, when I click on one of the social networks that appears in the photo of my post to share it, the image is not shown in social networks. What can the problem be? Okay, Ratepula. Again, so sorry. I butcher everything. What that might be is an Open Graph issue, that if you have the Yoast SEO plugin on there, if you just look in the plugin repository for Open Graph, OpenGraph, I'll type it in the comments here, that you may be able to find the problem with that. That was an issue I had as well. I enabled the Open Graph integration in Yoast, and it fixed it for me. Basically, what that does is send the meta information. It sends all of the stuff to social networks in the format that they accept. It adds your featured image in the thumbnail image that they accept. It tells you them what kind of information and stuff like that. I'm not sure if somebody could, I don't have a website pulled up right now with it in there, but in the Yoast options, you have to enable it. It's in one of the settings tabs. So I actually had to go in and enable the Yoast Open Graph stuff. So if you can do that, that might fix your problem, because it fixed it for me. Otherwise, there is a really good Facebook, Twitter, Google+, that's the logo, plugin on there for Open Graph that I've installed on a different site recently, and it worked very well as well. So it did the exact same thing, just sent my stuff out. I used one a long time ago called JM Twitter Cards. I don't know if it's being developed anymore or if it still works with current versions of WordPress, but back in the day when I used it, it worked to do this as well, but it was Twitter specific. It didn't work on Facebook or anything like that. It might have worked on Facebook. It's been a long time since I've used that one, but I know back in the day I got good stuff out of it. But recently, Yoast has fixed my problem. So hopefully that will work for you. Luckily, that's not a Monarch page problem. That's actually a social network problem with the way that they accept information from WordPress posts and pages. And posts and pages in general. Lauren in the comments of YouTube here, best way to keep your images from slowing your website even after resizing and saving for web and Photoshop still lagging? Yes, it will, because Photoshop doesn't do a very good job about that. I would suggest either a plugin called Imagify or TinyPNG. Those are the two that I use. What they do is remove the the compression. They compress all of them into different sizes, and you can save like 80% on your images. Lazy load, smush is also really good, as Tobias mentioned in the comments here. Short pixel I've never used, but I'm certainly going to try it now as well. I think Imagify has been the one I've been using, but I've used every one of these just depending on what I type into the plugin repository first. So definitely check those out. They're great. And I think I used Imagify recently because I didn't realize that I'd subscribed to the premium version of it to get extra images. You have a limit on how many you can do a month. You just hit bulk optimize and it runs through every image you have uploaded, and they'll also do it as you upload new images. But you have a limited number you can do, but I think it was $5 for enough that I would not run out over that month. So I paid an extra $5, so I'm gonna have to optimize some images this month. So y'all check that out if you've done that. So I'm happy about that. Thank you guys for the suggestions too. I can't wait to try Short Pixel out now. I love trying stuff like this. And image optimizer. That is the best that I possibly can. I will note that on my own so that I can put that in there. I can't edit it right now. On Facebook, I will type that in, and on YouTube, I'll be able to add that in as a comment on there, and I will add these comments in as a comment as well. Magify or Tiny PNG. Those are the ones. So I've put those on the comments on YouTube. But yes, I will add those in as I can. I'll be able to edit those on YouTube once this is done. So moving on, that was awesome, you guys. Thank you. I love those kind of discussions. Yay! So moving through the tutorials, I just want to talk to those of you who are just tuning in that this is the This Week in WordPress stream, where we talk about everything that's going on this week in WordPress. We talk about everything that's going on in our worlds with WordPress. If you have anything that you want to show off that you've done this week that works really well, if you've had any frustrations with WordPress, maybe we can help you answer a question or two about Divi or other plugins. Or, everything that's published, I've got tutorials and news and resources in the description of this video so that you can see everything that I thought was really cool this week. I'm about, a couple into the tutorial section. Isom, gotcha. And sorry, somebody in the YouTube comments, I finally know how to pronounce their name. And those of you who we're doing all this, we'll be moving through the tutorials, and there's no way that we can get through everything, but we will absolutely get through as many as we can, and you guys can click on all of them and read them. They will always be in the description of this video. So moving forward a little bit, I thought that, let me think. I actually just posted the Manage WP link, and apparently I didn't copy the right one. The how to update WooCommerce the right way from Iconic WP. This one's cool. It's interesting because with us talking about WooCommerce 3.3 earlier having some theme compatibility issues, I wanted to bring this up so that you can make sure that everything plays nicely with all your plugins, with your theme, and all of that. So check that one out. And then there is a WP Shout article that you must read. You must read this, called The Complete Guide to WordPress Security. And what I really appreciate is that about a couple of paragraphs in, the author says, I realize that the title of this page is grandiose because you can't really get a complete guide to WordPress security. It's always changing. There's always stuff going on. And but this is a really good way to just get a general idea of what you need to do. People are saying that WordPress is insecure, and it's not. We talked about this last time a little bit for those of you who were here. Being open source, it means that when there's a problem that somebody finds, someone else is working on fixing it. That's why encryption works so well, that you put out a public key, all this. If you haven't ever read Cory Doctorow's Little Brother, you need to read it, because I learned more about digital encryption and security from that book than I have the internet, all of the academic research that I could find, because it's a young adult novel. and I say this, and you guys are going to laugh at me. It's a young adult novel, but he explains it so that a young adult can understand, like, public keys and private keys and key swapping and encryption. It's awesome, and it will specifically tell you what you need to know about it and why open source is great for security. Read Little Brother by Cory Doctorow if you want to know about security. Like, it's great. But this article is also great because it's talking about botnets and getting your site hacked. And I had people even talking earlier this week that new WordPress installs that they had a massive amount of brute force attacks on them. And that's the way that it's going over right now. That's happening a lot these days. So you need to read this. You need to figure out what you need to do. Read it, 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 read it. So as we move on past that, Yoast has a fantastic article about how to fix low quality pages. I'm not going to sit and go through a whole bunch of this, but I want to, because you guys can read this one, and I've got a lot of Yoast stuff I want to talk about. Like, Yoast impressed me this week, y'all. Low quality pages are stuff that don't rank well, and they tell you why. Thin content pages that aren't useful. You have something that's about 150 words that doesn't do anything. It hurts your site more than it helps it. Duplicate content, things that you might want to use a canonical URL for, stuff like that. Read the Yoast article on how to fix low quality pages. There's a comment on the YouTube right now, because I am 104 years old, where Kyodor, I cannot pronounce that one. Recently got the Divi site to load in 1.5 seconds, and a smaller image size is definitely helpful. Same thing happened to me. I got a 1.37 on one recently, and it was after I was hyper aggressive with image compression. Kyodor, awesome. Thank you. So that I can do that. I also minified my JavaScript and CSS stuff, which is a default Divi option. Now you can go into Divi theme options and do that. Balance says in YouTube, feature question, does the Divi team plan to include WooCommerce themes in the new inbuilt Divi layouts, please? That's a little difficult for us, and the reason being, is because of how WooCommerce styling works. You can't actually change WooCommerce styling through normal means the way that Divi does. It changes it straight up in the PHP page. So that's something that's not possible at the moment as far as my understanding of it goes. I certainly hope so in the future there is a way to change around that with the possibilities of the builder. Raphael says, I need to work on my desk background style, and you are absolutely right, my friend. I'm working on my office lately and trying to get everything set up so that we can move it out. We have just not had we've just not had time to, like, move the giant armchair over there out of the way and get the shelves built with everything, and to move everything back this direction like I want it to. Believe me, this home office with a studio in it, I absolutely want to get this to where it looks much, much, much better and has stuff on there. I don't know, Uncle Social. Spider-Man might have to go away for some, like, Star Wars stuff, so we'll see. But you're absolutely right, Raphael. I get that. Tobias says, living in a small country like Denmark is pretty common to have a load time to 500 to 700 milliseconds. It's because everyone in Denmark's living near the hosting server. Holy moly, that's true. That would be awesome. Maybe I just need to move to Denmark. I need your internet very much. Yes, that is, yeah, that's an insane speed. That is, I'm just blown away by that. That's insane. 500. Wow. Great. So moving forward into the tutorials, the last one that I wanted to talk about in the tutorials was how to set up a cornerstone content strategy. This is something that's been on my mind a lot lately, and this is why I said that this may turn into the Yoast show for this very last part of it, because they put out so much good stuff this week that has been just right in where my brain has been. And they talk about cornerstone content. And if you've ever used the Yoast SEO plugin, you'll see a checkmark box that says, is this cornerstone content, or cornerstone content with a checkmark box. And I've never clicked that button. I don't know if you guys have or not. That cornerstone content is the articles, as they put it, that you're most proud of, the articles that reflect the mission of your company and the ones that you definitely want to rank for. And rather than going through every bit of this, I just wanted to really touch on what Yoast does with it, and what this means in terms of your content strategy, because the way that it was described to me recently, was that the cornerstone content is basically a long piece of information that you've got that outlines everything. It is a top-level view of a topic. Let's say that you're writing on Divi and you're a theme designer and you're on Divi. You might write about page builders in general and how Divi affects that ecosystem, and where Divi falls in with Visual Builder and Beaver Builder, Elementor, and all of this. So so that that's your cornerstone content. Bye, Vladislav. He's leaving. He said in the comments, I want to say bye. So the cornerstone content, that would be your cornerstone piece. You have like a 3,000 word article on page builders and where Divi fits in. Then the other articles that are related to that would then link back to that cornerstone piece, would be how you are using Divi, how individual use cases of Divi fitting in within that ecosystem, with using Divi in the page builder ecosystem with WooCommerce, because it's harder to get the theming to work. I can't remember who said it now. I'm so sorry. Oh no, I can't find it. Like was mentioned earlier, I wanted to call out by name. But those kind of things are the normal content that you're pushing out. But in order to help them rank, if you have one that's about 3 times the length and is an overall topic, a cornerstone topic, one that other things can be built off of, it's a fantastic thing for SEO. This is what I used to call, for my students, I used to tell them that they needed a springboard topic, that they had to have something broad to be able to narrow it down. And when you're like when I'm brainstorming, they're like, I don't know how to write an article. I don't know how to get an idea down. I don't know how to narrow down my focus. That's what my students all sounded like. They didn't. I love them all. But I was like, okay, tell me everything you know about global warming. And they're like, hot? Planet hot? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Now tell me about the climate difference in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee over the last 6 years. And they're like, oh, okay, so the temperature's gone up here, all this. And I'm like, yeah, that's the dig in that you can go into a lot more detail, but global warming would be the cornerstone content, and then the going on down like that. Call it pillar content in YouTube. William said that there are people who call it pillar content. Uncle Social mentions cornerstone, keystone, pillar. An architect became a content writer and defined those terms. Yeah, and it's because it's structuring your website, that when you have a pillar or a cornerstone, those are the ones that other things are built on top of, that it supports everything else, whether from the top or the bottom, they're there. You get everything. You get your cornerstone and keystone there. You get your keystone in your arch. Like everything, it's what other stuff leans up against. I have no keystone here. My mic is my keystone. I had to be able to do something because I have my hands moving around. But that's what it is. It's what everything else is built off of. So you can springboard into something else, or you can really narrow it down into, instead of just having a Divi as a page builder, you have a Divi with WooCommerce article, or you have a Divi with Gutenberg article, something like that. So read Yost's article about the about the cornerstone content strategy, because this is something I've actually been working on this week in my mind for side projects and honestly for elegant themes as well. So hopefully we'll have some stuff there. Uncle Social in the YouTube comments mentioned a landscape gardener to find evergreen content. That's true. Whenever I started hearing about evergreen content, I was like, oh, like trees. I get it. I see what you did there. You clever rabbit. So moving into the resources, I only have about 10 minutes. I only have about 8 minutes actually. So I'm going to go through these resources very quickly. For those of you who are just joining us right now, the resources section is where I talk about things that I think are cool. These are the stuff, these are the articles that I would share on Twitter and to be like, hey guys, look at this. This is fun. And that's what I think of as the resources section. So at the end of the This Week in WordPress streams, I always get through resources, and I highly suggest that you go through and check these out. All of the links in the description of this video. On Facebook, Stephanie asks, do you think that Divi is a disruptor in the global technology sector with regards to affecting online school enrollment for web design? Oh my. I don't think so, personally, and this is a personal thing on that one, thinking about it, because Divi, it could, but I don't think so. I think it depends on what those students are looking for. I enrolled in Team Treehouse whenever I first started doing web development and looking at web design to have a foundation. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been able to work with Divi or Ultimatum and Visual Composer like I did nearly as well, because I wouldn't have had the background in PHP and some of the stuff like that. I think it depends on what their end goal is going to be, because if excuse me, if they're going to be working in a field where something like Ruby on Rails or Ember or React is used, like a lot of university settings, other higher education stuff, medical hospitals are using things like that, then the online school enrollment may be the option that they have to go with, and Divi wouldn't have even been an option. That said, I know that I've talked to some people at WordCamp US who are working at hospitals and higher education and are using Divi, but from a personal perspective, I don't think it has as a huge disruptor in it. I think that over the next few years that it might be. I don't think it is right now. I think it might be because of the ubiquity of page builders as they're moving forward with Gutenberg being built in. You have all of the page builders now. You have Divi itself. I think as they become more accessible, that online school enrollment might be. But I also think that once people see Divi, once people know how to use Divi, that people like me are then going back again to approach stuff like JavaScript and React and learn how to do that. I want to know how to make Divi better. And that's not in a way saying that it's bad. I just want to know how to make it better. I want to know how to do other stuff with it. I want to know how to write my own modules for it, like places like Divi.space and Elegant Marketplace do. That this stuff is really cool, and I want to know how to do that. So by seeing this kind of how can I put it? This kind of disruption, I think that it's only in the end going to push people toward it, even though there might be a short-term dip in enrollment because of them becoming more accessible, if that makes any sense, as I ramble about that. Isom says that Divi's finally gotten you on board to learn more of the Wixation type of development. Me too. Isom, I did, when I use Visual Composer a lot, I use the back-end view, and when I started using Divi shortly after that, I saw the front-end builder, and I was like, oh my goodness, drag and drop actually works. This is so much better, and started using it. It's my favorite one, like I've said before, not because I work here, but because I started using it before that, and it's good stuff. If you haven't used the front-end builder in a while, you guys, y'all should. It really will get you on board to doing that as well. Tobias mentioned in the comments there is a best Google Chrome, 17 best Google Chrome extensions for web developers in the link down below here from WPMU Dev, who are awesome people. They put out great stuff. And they have just a bunch of Chrome extensions that may work, like just Wapalizer that allows the developer to identify various technologies that make up the back end of a site. I need to install that because I want to know what it is, and I always put websites into what is this built on.com or something along those lines. Window resizer, page ruler is great that you can instantly wireframe. There's one called Instant Wireframe where you can look at web pages as in wireframe mode. Checking links. Ooh, that one's nice. That one's a real nice. Web developer checklist. Code Cola is really cool. I didn't even look at that one before I skimmed past that one. Oh man, the CSS viewer one. Oh, it's great, y'all. It is wonderful. That y'all need to download all those. I don't have maybe a quarter of those downloaded myself. Isom says, I definitely inspired to learn more. Back end is what you mean. Yeah, I got you, Isom. I got you. I understand. It's made me want to do the same thing. Like I said, wanting to learn more to be able to go and build onto it. In the description here, best free fonts of 2018 is anytime you can get free fonts, y'all download them and use them. You can upload them directly to Divi now. 3 alternatives to Google Analytics for WordPress. That's really cool. I like Google Analytics. Sometimes I don't like using it. Sometimes I just use Jetpack SEO. They talk about Stat Counter and Kiss Metrics and Clicky. I've never used Clicky. I've used the other two, and I do like them. I use Google Analytics because it's Google Analytics, so you kind of have to. I've got a link in the resources about Brutalist Web Design, and if you don't know what web design is, Brutalist Web Design, y'all know what web design is. If you don't know what Brutalist Web Design is, go check that out from WPMU Dev. I've written a couple of articles at the Elegant Themes blog about Brutalist Web Design. Go check those out. And it also, at the very bottom, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the description of this video, there is an article just titled, What's a WAF? It's a web application firewall, and Securi put it on there, and we'll explain to you exactly why you need a WAF. You need a web application firewall. You probably should just use Securi. They're good. I like them. I know a lot of people use them. There's a bunch of others as well. iThemes, WordFence, all of this. I use all of them. Mentioned Backup Buddy earlier. Check it out, why you need a WAF. Uncle Social said that we are mad people. Is Chrome not eating enough of your RAM without adding a dozen more extensions? Why, yes. Yes, it is. I say when I've got 11, 12, 13, 14 tabs open while I'm live streaming. Yes, it might be. And Pickwick is excellent and self-hosted, full-featured web analytics. Oh, cool. William, I had no idea about Piwik, Piwik. That's cool. I'm going to check that out, too. I like new stuff. Thank you. Well, that's it for me, guys. We are out of time. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We do this every Friday at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, and I think it was 8 p.m. UT, is that right? An hour ago. We do it this time, every Friday. We talk about news, we talk about resources, we talk about tutorials, and we talk all about things that are going on in this week in WordPress for you guys. So bring your questions. We always want to answer. I always want to have a discussion. I want to get to know you guys. Want y'all to get to know each other, and I want to know how to pronounce your names so that I don't mess that up. So thank you for telling me how to do that, you guys. I will see you next week, and don't forget our next live stream coming up on Monday with Mac, the new Divi feature review at 6 a.m. Eastern. Until next week, guys, y'all have a wonderful week in WordPress.